Hello, I'm Andy Sixsmith and welcome to the second episode of the SportsByte show. Now, SportsByte is the voice of sport in Sunderland, and we've certainly backed that up this week with a bumper edition of the show that everyone is talking about. OK, well, maybe not everyone, but at least those that matter. Yourselves, of course. So, if the last episode was any good, how are we going to better that this time around, I hear you ask? Well, ask no more. This is how. How about a SportsByte exclusive for you? Go on then. We've only gone and got England Women's Rugby Union captain Katy McLean in the studio to discuss just how it feels to beat the world champions one day and then return to the classroom the next. And of course, recently it's been the BUCS Gatorade National Championships. We dedicate the rest of the show to some of our athletes who represented the university so well on that weekend in Sheffield. OK, so a packed episode in store then. Some would call it a bumper edition. So we better get started and bring you right up to speed with all of the latest fixtures and results from around the university. And what better place to start than with the women's football team, who stormed to the league title after recording their 8th consecutive victory. They beat local rivals Northumbria 5-2 at the Academy of Light to win the league with 2 games to spare. Fantastic achievement there for our ladies. And on the subject of fantastic achievements, how about this? Zoe Coggins returned from the BUCS Indoor Archery Championships with a gold medal in the women's compound rankings. Fantastic effort there, Zoe. Huge congratulations from all of us here on the show. Now, how about a little bit of drama for you? Well, the men's hockey team definitely brought that to you. They snatched a last-gasp, dramatic 1-1 draw with Northumbria. And unfortunately, well, their destiny is now out of their hands. Even if they win their remaining fixtures, they really have to hope other results go their way if they're to clinch the league title. And their captain, Callum Richardson, had this to say on the performance.
Last goal to salvage a point, shouldn't it be more?
It should definitely have been a lot more. Constantly attacking throughout the game. Like, they had their chances as well, but I feel about 80% of the time we're up in their D. We made the chance, we just couldn't finish today, unfortunately.
So what does this result mean for the rest of your season?
We've got 2 games left, we've got 2 games in hand over top, so providing they lose their next game, we win our next 2, we can potentially still win, but there's...
So the title's not out
no, it's not out completely, but it's going to be hard.
And then obviously
games.
Varsity coming up as well, looking forward to that?
Of course, everyone always looks forward to Varsity.
Let's move on finally. The netballers, they were a little bit closer, and our netball firsts in particular. They slipped to a 44 points to 32 loss against York. And unfortunately, it was a negative result, but a positive performance ahead of next month's varsity fixture against Teesside. OK, well, the stopwatch is ticking, and we have an England rugby captain waiting on the wings who I really don't want to get on the wrong side of. So, fresh from a series whitewash of world champions New Zealand back in December, Katy McLean, thank you for coming onto the SportsByte show. Let's start with that second consecutive series win over New Zealand, and this time it was a whitewash. Fair to say that it was a pretty good result.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into it, the previous tests had been it'd come down to the final game, which was a draw. So we knew we could beat them. We had that in the bag. That we're reigning champions of the previous kind of series. So coming into the autumn, we were really, really confident in a really good place. And I think the first game was we just needed to get that out of the way, get that good win, which we did. It wasn't a great performance from us, but got the result. And then going into the Tuesday game was always, I suppose, going to be the tester, because the final game was obviously Twickenham after the men. So got to the Tuesday, we had a lot of changes. They went with their same team, and it was a really good evening, I suppose, because actually the idea for us was to go into Twickenham with a 2-0 lead and really enjoy the experience going into Twickenham, not be 1-1 and think, oh God, we're at Twickenham, what can go wrong kind of thing. So to get that win on the Tuesday night was massive for us, and Twickenham was just such a great experience. It's probably one of our best performances as a team. There's some really, really good team tries, but individual tries, and to get that 3-0 win was pretty sweet.
Well, it was excellent watching it back, and with the success of a women's game right about now, how soon do you think it's going to be until you're on about the same level as the men's game in this country?
I mean, ideally, that's what we strive for, isn't it? Nationals and in any sport, any women's sport, you kind of just want to keep pushing your sport and keep getting it recognised. And I don't know if there'll ever be a comparison between the men's and women's games. There's obviously the obvious difference in strength, size, power, speed, all of those. But I think the main thing for us as women is just to make sure that we keep making the sport interesting, appealing, making sure that the level that we're playing at and the level it's played at is something that people want to turn on and watch. And at the end of the day, that's all I can do as an individual, and that's all we can do as a team.
Yeah. Well, it's a real rivalry developing with the Black Ferns, isn't it? We have the series wins over them, whisper it quietly, but they have the last couple of World Cups over us. 2014, is that the year really to end this hoodoo?
We keep saying it. I mean, we've played at London 2010. I honestly believe that was going to be our year, and we didn't turn up on the day, and New Zealand, all credit, deserved that World Cup. And you can't take that away from a side to be, I think they've won the last 3 World Cups, is massive, and they hold that card, and until we do something about it, until we step up on the day, you've kind of just got to take the little steps, and that's all we're doing at the moment, the little steps of series wins and whitewash and things like that. They do mean something at the time, but until we get to World Cup final and we get there, so we've qualified, we're in the semis and all of those things, it's that's what we're building to, 2014. You don't want to say it because until we do it, it means nothing. It really
don't jinx
doesn't.
it. Well, there's a bit of wood here if you want to knock on that, just in case. Well, you were named captain back in January 2011 now.
Yeah.
But how much does it mean to you to actually be able to walk out there and captain your country?
I mean, I can remember being little and always knowing I wanted to play rugby for England. It's kind of, I don't know, in my blood maybe. Being asked at the time, I was like, oh God, I don't think I'm ready for this. It's one of those things that I was like, I can't do it. I'm going to have to turn it down. And I spoke to my dad. My dad was like, are you stupid? Don't be ridiculous. Whatever you do, I don't care if you don't want to do it, you're doing it. Yeah. And it is. It's a massive honour. I'm really lucky with the girls I play with. They make my life really, really easy in terms of rugby and captaining them. But it's one of those things that I think probably when I retire and when I finish, you look back on and go, I captained my country, which is pretty sweet.
I can definitely imagine you doing that. But after a few days after that win over New Zealand, you know, a historical win over the world champions, you're back in your day job at Bexhill Primary School in Sunderland. How hard is it to come back down to earth almost after such an achievement?
It's pretty hard to sit on the floor as well, to be honest, just moving. But no, I'm really lucky. The school are amazing. They are so supportive of what I do in terms of the girls I work with in reception, but also the school as a whole. So coming back in, they were all really excited. I'd watched a lot of the kids had watched the game because it was on Sky and stuff. So that was amazing. They were all like, Miss McLean, we saw you on TV, we saw you on TV. So, I mean, sometimes I have no idea where I am and what I'm doing, but it's weird. You think like one day you're playing at Twickenham on the Saturday and Monday morning I'm sitting in my classroom in Sunderland talking about phonics. So it is, but I wouldn't change it. The balance is there for me. It allows me. I love teaching. I love working with the kids. I get so much out of them. So yeah, sometimes it's just a bit tiring.
Well, are there any aspects of the rugby game that actually help you out in the classroom?
Maybe the straining and the picking them up. No, I suppose the leadership element is massive, and the kind of being able to talk to them. And I spend my time around people and around the kids, and they just bring that balance. You don't kind of get carried away in your own rugby bubble, I suppose, because you've got that to look after them and that kind of nurturing side. They are a delight.
Well, let's focus a bit on the Six Nations that are ongoing right now. We've won the last 7, and, well, 6 of them have been Grand Slams, correct me if I'm wrong. But they're not doing so well this time. A lot of the squad are on sevens duty. Last result was 20-30 to France. What are your thoughts on the championship so far?
I think everybody's always going to make this massive comparison. When you've lost 17 players, what you do and why you mix, and I think that's something for higher up to think about. But in terms of the girls playing, I know they'll be doing their utmost to making sure that they're on the top of their game and their performance, and that's all you can focus on. At the end of the day, it's the girls that are playing. It's not about the 17 players that aren't involved, because at the end of the day they're not involved, and it's just focusing on the girls that are involved, making sure that as a squad and as an elite squad we're behind them, which they are massively, and making sure that they're just doing themselves proud and not being worried about, oh, well, there's 17 players missing. It's about them being on the field, doing their job and doing the best they can. Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned the sevens duty there, and it's coming up in June in Moscow, of all places, as well. But the squad are joining up pretty much on a weekly basis. How much do you think that that's going to help performances in June? Yeah, I mean, massively. I mean, we're really lucky. We train Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in London, so we're based down there. I mean, you look at other countries, however, they're full-time, so they train full-time now. Canada, Holland, Spain, America are all full-time, but it'll make a massive difference to us, the fact that we're having that amount of time together, just to train together, simple things about just kind of being around each other, being around a tournament, and how a tournament will run on a daily basis, playing one game at 9 and maybe not playing again till 1 and then not playing again till 5. It's really, really good to have that kind of, that prep for us, but I think it's just the little things of running lines, the different things that each other do that you don't generally get to learn because we don't spend enough time together. So we are really lucky in that respect.
And looking forward to visiting Russia?
Somewhere I'd never really thought about going on holiday, but yeah, I've got to get into the 12 first.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Katie, for coming onto the SportsByte show. We really, really appreciate it. Best of luck ahead of that Sevens tournament in June in Moscow, and hopefully we can catch up with you in future.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Katie. OK, we're off to an excellent start then, and the going was pretty good for our athletics team at the recent BUCS Gatorade National Championships. There were some admirable performances, most notably from Paul Allen, who won a bronze in the long jump. And I'm delighted to welcome Paul and his athletics captain, Chris Dunn, into the studio today. Guys, thank you for joining me on the SportsByte show. Paul, if I can turn to you first, bronze medal from a weekend which you described as the pinnacle of your season. What are your thoughts on that third place?
Well, I actually came joint second with Loughborough's David Guest, and I took the bronze medal on countback.
OK, well, that's a bit unfortunate. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I had a mammoth last no jump, and I turned round and saw the guy had the red flag up. So I believe it would have took the gold.
I heard you were carrying an injury as well, is that right?
Yes, I injured my heel in the qualifiers on the Saturday. Unfortunately, I went over the board and hit the wood, and I think I've ruptured the fat pad on the bottom.
Sounds absolutely nasty, that does. But when you've recovered from that, Paul, what's next for you in the long jump pit?
Well, usually I heal like a vampire, so I've got some warm weather training coming up in Florida on the 5th of April, and then the BUCS Outdoors to look forward to in the May.
But obviously looking much more forward to the BUCS Outdoors in Florida.
Clearly.
Yeah, it's all right for some, I suppose. Chris, if I can bring you in, what did you think of this guy's performance over the weekend?
Yeah, it was a great performance. Obviously injured himself in his qualifier, and then to perform out in the final, it was absolutely a great performance. And
what about the team as a whole? How did they get on?
Yeah, obviously a team of 3 down, Freya, myself and Paul. Shame we couldn't take our full team. 2 people dropped out at last minute with an injury and then tiredness. But it would have been nice to have a full team. But the team who went down was absolute great performances. Well run, everybody.
And how do you think that you can use these championships as a springboard for future events?
Well, with Freya being our first female runner, hopefully we can push the female participation in athletics more in the university, and also the people who didn't turn up and run, to try and push them forward for possible medal hopes at the outdoor championships.
Brilliant. Well, we appreciate you coming onto the show today, guys. Well done again, Paul, for that bronze medal. We look forward to seeing a lot more of you in future in the long jump pit. And Chris, best of luck with the graduation. Thanks. Right, enough horsing around. It's time to jump into that saddle and take a rather different look at equestrian and how it's leapt out of the stables this year at Sunderland University. And OK, yes, while I sit here and content myself with thinking up new and improved horse puns, why don't you take a look at this report from our very own James Fanning.
Hi there, I'm James Fanning, and today we're at the Prenshaw Equestrian Centre. As you can see, the horses behind me have been put through their paces. I'm here to find out more about what they're doing and what's going on. Hello Becky, hello Jack. We're here today to, could you give us more of an idea about what equestrian is and what got you involved in it?
Well, we do, we come here every week and we have one jumping lesson every alternative weeks and also a flat work lesson, and we have, we have an intermediate, beginner and a team group, and then the team goes to competitions 4 times a year, different with Heathcote, Edinburgh and Newcastle, and also home competition here.
I see. Have you took part in any competitions yourself? Or
yes. Well, Jack hasn't. No, he's only new. He's very green at the moment. But I've been competing with the university here.
I mean, when is your next competition then?
Next week, actually, at Heathcote. Our last one.
Will Jack be ready for that?
Jack's not doing it. It's at Heathcote, so he's just staying here. Unfortunately, we're going up there with the horses.
Well, would you recommend other people to get involved? Right, just say what are the benefits of getting involved?
Definitely, it's a really good experience. Gets to ride all sorts of different horses. It's a really good experience to come around, and it's just really cheap as well, just to get.
Today with Nicole and Lulu, and we're here today to discuss the Sunderland Equestrian Club. With the recent success at the Olympics, has that had any impact on yourself or the club itself?
I hope so. I mean, a lot of people see it on the telly and they think, oh, it looks so easy and things like that. And I think a lot of them want to actually come out and try it. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie, it is a tough sport. But I think with a lot of things going on this year, I think it has sort of pushed people to come and give it a go.
In terms of like going from one horse to another, how do you build up the relationship and the understanding between the
Well, what it is, there must be about 16 horses here, so obviously when we come we're just literally chucked on a horse. We don't know what it can do, but we have the same ones in the riding school. Obviously we've got big ones, small ones. It's not the same every horse that you get on. I think that's the real benefit of the society, because you get to build up your skills and things like that. If you're riding the horse week in, week out the same one, you don't really learn anything differently. So if you get put on other horses, you will really benefit from
So in terms of actually taking part, what are like the fitness requirements? 'Cause when I was watching you there, it seemed quite physically demanding.
It is. I mean, you're only doing an hour's work each lesson you do, but you'll feel the difference. Like the next day when you get off, you literally can't walk. Your muscles are so stiff. It's like doing a full day in the gym. But as you keep going and as you have more lessons, your body gets stronger. You build up your muscles, you build up your core muscles, things like that. So it is. The more you do it, the more benefits you receive out of it.
So, what would you recommend for people to get involved with the club?
Basically, we've got a Facebook group. So if anyone's got any questions or anything, then just speak to us on there, message us. We're trying to get as many people involved as we can. I don't think a lot of people actually know about the equestrian club as much, but yeah, if anyone is interested and wants to get involved, just look on there. It's just Sunderland Equestrian. Just on Facebook.
And what would you say the benefits to the members are?
It's great. You actually get a lot for your money. It is a £75 initial membership fee, but you do get 10 lessons, which is really good, because I think the average rate of lessons around here is £22, so you're actually getting like a lesson for £7.
Right, well, thank you to James for that superb stuff, and luckily for you viewers, I haven't been able to come up with any more horse puns in the meantime, so you've definitely been let off there. And, well, I never really was any good at them anyway. So let's move on to something that I am a little bit better at. Last September, a swim team at the university was an idea. It was almost a dream, a fantasy, fiction, if you will. But now, with 2 national championships and an ever-expanding squad under its belt, the sport at the university is definitely a reality. Just ask Coach Alex Council, which we will, because he is right here now. Alex, welcome to the SportsByte show. Thank you for coming on. Let's start with the recent BUCS Gatorade National Championships. How did that weekend go for you?
It was a long weekend. I think it was definitely a tough weekend for us. But I think overall, I'm happy with how it went. It was definitely a learning curve, some very good swims from the swimmers, and yeah, definitely a marker point for the future.
Okay, well, a lot of people are going to be looking at the results and seeing no medals, no finals, but we both know that it's an entirely different animal, swimming. Just give us an insight into the high level of competition at Ponds Forge over the course of a weekend.
I think with the fact that we've just started this year, I think for good 4 or 5 years in the future, we are not going to be aiming for any medals or getting any medals at all. It's not our thing. Especially with the likes of Hannah Miley, Roberta Pavoni, Liam Tancock, we stand no chance. But that's part of the beauty of BUCS. The fact that we can swim in the same pool at the same time with these big names, it's a huge step. So our main aim is just to go there and get some PBs, which we did. So I think in terms of the swimming aspect, it was a success for us.
Well, you mentioned steps there, little baby steps this year, building the foundations of a team, but we can't ignore the fact that there was no team back in September. They've come so far in so little time. What do you think that this team can achieve?
I think this team can achieve a lot, especially with as you say, there's such little time and such huge development. It's fantastic to see, because next year, I think we could really go and progress this team very quickly into a competitive team.
Well, there's been obviously a few problems on a national scale with British swimming over the past 8 to 10 months, immediately after the London Olympics, unfortunately. But what are your thoughts on the sport in the country at the minute, and how do you think that we can expand the media coverage on it?
First, I think the media coverage is disappointing, to say the least. I mean, they say that swimming is supposed to be one of the most popular sports in the UK at the moment. And that was shown really by the huge amount of support in the pool at the Olympics. I mean, yes, we didn't have as good as swims at the Olympics, some supposedly disappointing swims, but personally I think that's a load of rubbish. It was incredible swimming and it's highly competitive races. So I think we should be looking at more the fact that there is so much support, so much popularity. Take advantage of that. Show the media coverage just how much swimming is important to people. Nothing more we could ask.
Okay, well, you've done extremely well this season just to set the squad up and set the entire team up. But looking ahead to next, what are the aims?
Well, especially after this year, because we've got so much has happened in such a little space of time, I think the next step is to set those foundations. So really make it in stone so that this club is here to stay for future references before all of us go. I mean, with this committee we've worked very, very hard to get it as it is, and couldn't have done it without them. So to be able to set this as stone for the future people to take over is, I think, our next aim. With also hopefully trying to compete more, get a bit more competitive inside the BUCS, improve the times, get more people into the sports, and go on from there. Okay, great. Well, it sounds excellent, and you've got our full faith and full backing for that. Best of luck ahead of varsity and ahead of next season, and we hope to hear a lot more from the swimming team in the future. Thank you for coming on, Alex. Cheers. Okay then, staying in the water, but don those hats, insert those goalposts, and, well, let's throw a couple of balls in there for good measure, because it's time for Minority Minute. And for those of you viewers who are new to the show, let me explain this feature in brief. Each week we take a different minority sport at the university and allow one of their team members to explain that sport in detail in 1 minute. It's pretty self-explanatory really, isn't it? This week the spotlight falls on water polo, so without further ado, let's head across to their president, Maeve McLaughlin. Maeve, it's your time to shine. Hit it.
Hi, I'm Maeve. I'm the president of the water polo team, and we started in September after we set up a tournament last year, which the university came second in. We used that as a bit of a taster to see how the university felt about the game, which ended up successful. I've been playing the game since I was doing my GCSEs. I used it as a bit of a stress relief, and I played since then pretty much all the time, training lots and lots, and I started school team and moved on to an outside team, which then led me to an Irish training squad. With the Irish training squad, it taught me a lot and made me want to coach, and that's why I decided to set up the team when I came to university, when I realised there wasn't one. I started it last year, but this year's been the main drive, and next year we hope to be entered into a full league, in which hopefully we'll do well in. But we need more team members. It's a fun, fast-paced game where we need you to be committed, but it's great fun as well, and that's why you should join in September.
Superb stuff there, and I'm definitely going to get myself involved in water polo. I don't even need armbands, so that has to be an advantage, right? Well, let's move on from such hideous images and, well, let's move on to a hideous image, because off camera, Matt Smith is pacing around like a caged gorilla. So with a few minutes left on the show, I think it's about time for a regional football roundup. He's a bit of a wanted man in the region. I'll let you make your minds up as to whether that's a good or a bad thing. Matt, it's over to you.
Hello and welcome to this week's football roundup with me, Matt Smith. I'll try and be a little bit less controversial than Roy Keane midweek, although in my humble opinion, I believe that Nanny should have been sent off as well. And I've got no agenda with Fergie. Anyway, you're not here for the Champions League roundup. You're here for a little bit of Sunderland regional gossip. So let's see what the paper said this week. Midfielder Jack Colback clearly not happy with his team's spirited revival against Fulham and has now insisted that we need wins. He is now saying that QPR and Norwich games are now key. You tell them, Jack. The Echo also reporting that Martin O'Neill's new 4-4-2 system is bright, but it's no magic cure. The 4-4-2 system obviously given Danny Graham and Stephen Fletcher a chance to cement their names in Sunderland's strike partnership history books, alongside the likes of Gabbiadini and Gates, Phillips and Quinn, Anthony Latalik and Jonathan Stead. In good news for Sunderland, Carlos Queller's back and claims that he's raring to go. The defender now saying he will play a key part in the last few games of Sunderland's running. And just to clear something up, the Echo headline Master Blaster is not referring to another awkward sex scandal in Sunderland, but this time is referring to Craig Gardner and his fantastic penalty accuracy. The defender has now scored 3 in his last 6 games. Anyway, from one Master Blaster to the other, I'll pass you back on to Andy Sixsmith. I hope you'll join us again next week for another regional roundup.
OK, thanks for that, Matt. Superb stuff as ever. And unfortunately, that is us out of time now for this week. All that's left for me to do is to thank all of our guests, to the England rugby captain, Katy McLean, to the athletics duo of Paul Allen and Chris Dunn, to the water polo president, Maeve McLaughlin, the swimming coach, Alex Council, and of course, to Matt Smith too. Hopefully, no horses were offended in the making of this programme. But in the meantime, I have been Andy Sixsmith. This has been the SportsByte Show. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.